I just got back in from outside. I took my shoes off and I um, replanted myself into my slippers. I put leather, like just some leather fabric, into the bottom of the house slipper. It's very good, very good. And so I'll show you what how my fashion has changed since I became actualized. Actualized. So I actualized through my wardrobe. So nowadays what I go for is basically the whole thing started because I had some here, let me layering is an important part of this. So okay, there we go. I love this so nice. Okay, so I was just like happy stimming. Okay, I like love. Okay, basically I actualized. I knew I was actual. My wardrobe I was actualized when I like I'm just happy stimming at what I'm wearing, like what I'm wearing. So I'll show you. I'll show you. So this has to do with hemming, and this has to do with buttons. This has to do with zippers. This has to do with like I said, hemming, which is also called stitching, also called um um they're not embroidery is different. Embroidery is very different. Embroidery is different. So here's what I learned about how I self-actualize myself. And I will just say that natural selection is a myth. For our species, natural selection is a myth. It's actually a future myth. So it's kind of like it's a legacy. It's a modern legacy. So natural selection is a modern legacy that is shifting from myth into reality. What do I mean by that? Is that initially, natural selection was actually done by people's parents. So this is how it works. Like animal husbandry included humans. So I'll tell you how it is like in many cultures around the world, including on the subcontinent of Bharata. That's the accurate political word for India would be Bharata. So that's something you should know. And so it's still common that the natural selection between partners, so partners choosing their partners, but actually how it works in Bharata and in many places still around the world is that the parents, both parents, not just one parent, not just the father, not just the father and also not just the mother, like not just some like one of the mother's relatives. You know what I'm saying? So this is there were multiple ways that natural selection was not natural selection for a really long time. And again, I'm gonna like loop this back around to fashion when I finish to explain how this all plays a role with natural selection. So we're coming into ourselves, we're self actualizing, and that does have to do with fashion because we cannot present ourselves as actualized, we cannot be physically actualized until our fashion permits such like permits like our real bodies. So there are people walking around with canes, there are people walking around with walkers, people hobbling, walking, right? So we're not actually able to gauge if a random stranger like how they are actually actualized in terms of their musculature, and this has to do with abdominal muscles. So like I said, I just came in from outside, and if you were a random stranger, okay, regardless of whether you're looking at me as a potential mate for yourself or as a potential mate for a child of yours, right? Because that's how it was in many countries. In many throughout our history, it was like a mother's like um distant relative, they would get like, okay, you marry our daughter, this, or this son, Or in many places it was a father who would make business deals, and then that way the father would say, okay, this is the person who I'm going to basically dote upon this person and then marry them into the family with one of the father's children. So it was often political or familial. But then there's places like Barata, where, and many other places, not only Barata, and I'm not saying everywhere in Barata is like this, but where it's actually both parents who have veto power, basically veto power, and that's actually very much preferred by children in those cases. Like the children don't want to, I say children, they're not children anymore. The adult offspring of a couple will be very, very hopeful and patient with their parents as their parents are basically preparing themselves to let their little bird fly free, right? And to make and to live in their own home and make their own home. So that's my reject pile. I like had to sort through all my fashion to choose what I wanted to keep. So in that instance, it's not just the father or the mother who's choosing one. You know, someone might say, "Oh, what about this guy?" You know, this person reading their whole profile, their life history, their personality traits, you know, what they like, their favorite, you know, all types of information about them, and making kind of like a quick decision or you know, meeting with that person first before their child meets their adult offspring meets that child to say, okay, do we both approve in lieu of our daughter or our child? Do we both approve that this person is great for the person who we know the best, better than they know themselves? So that's basically how, you know, that's like one way that natural selection kind of is natural. But what is not natural selection? Not natural selection is when it's only when it's husbandry is different than what I just described. Husbandry has to do with livestock. So livestock, the reason why I say that natural selection is a myth is because for example, take chickens. Chickens are not vegetarian. So you who is going out and oh look, they're like all this packaging on these on the like eggs. First of all, these eggs are bleached. Bleaching eggs is unnecessary. Okay, it's horrid. It's horrid. And chickens are not vegetarians. Chickens are natural foragers that need protein, but they're being fed an all vegetarian diet. That is not natural selection. On top of that, livestock, including chickens, but all kinds of livestock, because they are, you know, being kept in a household, they're being kept in a household, but at the same time, they're not being considered a family member when that's really what they are. So this is the spiritual, and this is something that I think many people who are like Vedically spiritual, if that makes sense, who incorporate aspects of Vedic spiritualism into their lifestyle can wrap their heads around, which is that if a animal who's not a human is being not allowed to choose their natural partner, okay, we can acknowledge that's not natural selection because that partner is not having free range, including children, including like, you know, teenagers and young adults. They're not having free range to go meet whoever they want and then immediately just do whatever, right? It's up to parents to, for a long time, it was like parents choosing who their child marries unless someone's going to go run away. I mean, in Ireland, that happened so often. That happened in Ireland where people would just run away and it's like, where did they go? Did they get pregnant? Is that what happened? Or did they fall in love? They just disappeared. And then there's all these hunting, there's like, you know, tracking them down halfway across the country. Anyway, guys. So yeah, so like when a animal is not having natural selection, right? And this is why I say it's a myth, a modern myth, because slowly there are some modern practices that are basically considering the animals kept as livestock to be family members. Why? Because they're being kept with the family. When an animal, doesn't matter what species of animal, is being kept with a family, it's it's taking familial control over reproduction. So it's like separating, it's interrupting natural selection that hasn't existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, hundreds of thousands of years there has been like a lack of natural selection. And now natural selection is what is taught to high schoolers, middle schoolers, and college students alike, without explaining to those college and high school and middle school students that no, natural selection is actually natural selection is a myth. It's like it doesn't exist. It's not really real. Like you know. Okay, so spiritually, the outcome of considering an animal to be a member of the family, for example, a cow, considering a cow to be like a sister as opposed to a child or a sub or like or a pet or any pet, like you could say a pet, but a pet is a member of the family. So some people consider their pets to be like sisters, other people consider their pets to be like babies or brothers or whatever, or even like like elderly. So people, because you have to, like, cats and dogs, they have a shorter lifespan. So in some ways they are elderly. They're older than us from people who have longer lifespan. So a lot of people treat their pets with reverence because they understand that the pet has this fast-tracked experience of like wisdom, the wisdom of just being born. Okay. Okay. I had to plug it in. I had to plug the computer in again. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. I'm going to tell you guys about my surgeon fashion, because not allowing natural selection, some people would consider livestock animals to be kind of like medical patients. Okay, so when people are reproducing animals in captivity and they're not allowing natural selection, they understand natural selection is not really what's occurring. Okay, because natural selection is based on sexual autonomy. And so when there is none of that, then there is no natural selection. And that's what I mean by myth. Myth that extends to humans as well, right? Human mating choices. So many people would consider their animals to be more like medical patients when they're being bred, as opposed to family members who are having a baby. Yes, a very big mammal family, a very big mammal family. Okay, so this is surgeon fashion. I just came in from outside, so I took my coat off. My coat, I mean, it's like a light day outside. This is my jacket. So I consider anything that has a pocket in it to be outer. So I don't keep pockets on the inside. So if it's an underlayer, no pockets. If it has a pocket even like this in the like shirt, then it's like an outside jacket. Okay? And also like open in the front with buttons. So I took that off, took my shoes off, and then this is my wind guard. Wind guard. So I'm gonna take that off. So I take my wind guard off. Okay. And then and yeah, so this is it. This is it. I'm not trying to get organ damage, right? I'm not trying to disrupt my natural kinesiology. Kinesiology is the body's knowledge of movement. And what is that? That's jiggle. Okay, the jiggle is real. Okay, people jiggle, not on purpose, but people jiggle when they run, when they walk, when they get up, when they get down, when they talk, when they don't talk. Okay, people jiggle. And what happens when there's tautness of something that's not taught like this? Okay, this is taut. Taut. See that? Taut, but there's no hemming or seaming in it. Why? Because then my organs are not having um um injury by buttons, injury by, okay, because the thing is my muscles are naturally accounting for jiggle. So when a person is walking, they're jiggling, and without anything that is like, imagine a string, like imagine if I wrapped your arm in string and pulled. That would hurt, right? If I wrapped and then like that would literally hurt, like physically injure. And that's kind of basically what's going on with this waist like hemming and that, because why? Because when the like jiggle, right? This jiggle is not allowed. It's like the button closure, the zipper button closure or any kind of like thing that has just like a hard line, literally a hard line, you know, like wrapping and pulling, that's going to result in injury. Um, so a hard line, um, it's it's pressing that jiggle, and then the musculature is going to atrophy in response. And it's literally digging into these internal organs. Why? Because the natural ab muscles, the abdominal muscles, need to account for jiggle. So the external jiggle causes the abdominals, the core, to engage, and then what's under the muscles then is protected and is like tucked back. But what is happening with this like hemming, it's kind of like interrupting natural selection. That's what I mean by self-actualizing, actually presenting healthy muscles, muscles that are actually able to flex, like to like tuck and protect. That's how we can most accurately present ourselves to just everyone, parents and potential mates, and you know, parents of potential mates, right? So, and it's, and like, yeah, so then that's what I have for the bottom. So anything that, so I just like, I have like a few of these, like, just like, basically, I unhemmed all of my pillowcases and it was a perfect fit. I unhemmed all of my pillowcases and I just wrap it and tie it again. Not quite like that. I think I do like a different kind of knot, like this. See? And then it can like be flipped towards the back too. For like a clean. And then I put a wind guard over if I'm going outside. Now, when I'm indoors, this is fine. When I'm indoors, I'll have an overlayer. I have an overlayer that's open. So anything that is, these are the rules that I determined. Here, I'm going to explain. Anything that's long sleeve, make sure that it's open in the front unless it's something like this, where it is continuously, there's no like singular, like this does, I suppose, have like a circle to it. So this might act, so this is like an example. I worked in a previous video. So let's compare something like this. Let's check it out. It has a line at the top of the shoulder, and then it has a line, yes, a one singular line. Imagine wrapping a string and pulling. It doesn't matter if it's loose or too tight. That's still what's happening. If someone tries to raise their arm, it's like a string wrapped around that's getting pulled, that's going to result in injury. Okay, so that's what I've totally eliminated from my wardrobe. That's like the big reject pile. So take this, for example. You see this kind of sleeve? There's a line on top and then there's a line going around. Okay, versus something like this. So this is an underlayer, but you see how it goes all the way, like, um, there's no shoulder impingement. Okay, so there's full, there's full range of motion. There's full range of motion. Why? Because it's going one straight, it's going only like outward. You get what I'm saying? And then it's like a suspension drop. So anything that's suspended from the top, there's like suspenders, but like only the top. Okay, so that was like my one rule. Unless it's open in the front, like this. You see, like this has a line going around, but it's open in the front. So see? So it's still like maintaining that range of motion. Okay, let's say for other examples. This is another example of something that is open. It's long sleeve, so it has this hem, but it's open in the front. And then here is a excellent example of another top that's like this. And as you can see, it's all one, it's just going straight out. There's no shoulder, like I said, there's no separate shoulder, like there's no wrapping a string around the armpit and pulling. That's basically what those like short sleeve shirts do. It's wrapping a string and then pulling, but without any release of that tension by being open. Okay, take another example. I decided to keep, okay. Okay, here's another example of something that is suspension. So this I would put under a cardigan, something that's open. I would put a long sleeve over something like this. This is suspension. See, it doesn't have any of those like things, and it just drops straight down. Okay, it's not like a tank top. A tank top is not suspension, because it's not having this like shoulder coverage. So I eliminated the tank tops that, yeah. And so, but then there's something like this. Okay, so there's this, which is like total suspension. See, versus something like this that is not total suspension, because it actually goes into, like, it's like seamed in as opposed to suspended. You see the difference? So for something like this, how I would fix, um, I'll show you how like I fixed like another shirt that was like in a similar category. This one, okay? So I took this, and it doesn't have the shoulder coverage that I'm looking for, to actually suspend down the sides of the upper arm. So that's the like that. And so what I did to fix it, because it has this opening, I just opened the whole thing. Yeah, I opened the whole thing so that there's still that, like when I like go, you see how it is able to flex with it? And so I would do the same thing with this. I'm going to open it, open the front of it, and then that will create a totally different feeling. See, that is able to account for this lack of suspension, but it's actually draping. So something like this drapes, and anything that is draping needs to either drape over, spill over the sides of the shoulder, um, or be like open if it's like a long sleeve. See, because this is different. Like this is like going totally out. Here. I was like so happy to find these like eclectic pieces that I already owned that are great examples of this. So this has one seam. This is from Uniqlo. No, this is from Anthropologie. And it has a single seam that goes from the top all the way to the outer. You see? And it's not wrapped around like the armpit specifically. See? Like the armpit goes to like a drape. So something like this that's not that doesn't have like a three-way drape basically. It's not draping um this way, this way, and also like, see what I'm saying? For it to go out, it's like also down here. But then there can't be an interruption between this and this, which is why this drape is also important. So this doesn't have that quality, unlike this. Okay? Okay. So this just has the one drape. That's why I say suspension. This has one drape. And then if it has this shoulder, then it has three drape. One, two, and then the first one. So to account for the fact that this already has a drape going in this direction, see, it's like going on one side. It's not suspension. So to account for that, I can open the front of it. Oh, basically eliminate the drape, the middle drape, and then just create an opening. See what I'm saying? The most important thing is to avoid organ damage, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I got my surgeon's haircut, and everything makes a lot of sense, like making more and more sense. So I'm like, it's like actualization. And this I kind of wasn't sure about, because it goes past um, it goes past the elbow. But also the different part of this is that it goes past the hip. So anything that's like ending at the hip is like a little different. Like when I say like this goes past the I'll say the it goes to thigh. This like passes over to thigh. So that's like kind of like anchoring this like this like seam. I don't know if you guys can like imagine like wearing like a longer thing as opposed to wearing like a shorter thing that also has the shoulder, that like shoulder kind of like a wing um clutch, right? So, but having it touch the actually like the back of the thighs, that's like a difference. That's like a difference. And it goes past the elbow. That's the other thing. Like it's not just about being short sleeve, but it actually goes past the elbow to maintain like it's something that's like further than this. Okay, so this is like draping over the edges of the shoulder, but having something that doesn't drape over the shoulder, this doesn't drape over the shoulder, right? It like ends before it can reach the shoulder. And then this is like this like shoulder kind of texture. But then it actually, right? So it drapes past, why does it drape? It drapes because it goes all the way past the elbow. Then it also goes to the back of the thigh. So there's like these like things that I had to think about, but also feel. When I say feel, I mean like really like my musculature. It's like kinesiology. Okay. So yeah.